Story 1. 4K. Malicious Compliance. Posted by you, Tokiohi. 15 hours ago. Can't get paid overtime. Don't call us outside of work hours. MOC. Update. I'm sorry I didn't mention English is not my first language and that my grammar is bad. Also need to add my last workplace is a home health agency where we coordinate with nurses and therapists on field when visiting patients. Don is Director of Nursing. Alt Don is Alternate Director of Nursing and Admin is Administrator. Ready for another story about my ex-boss. For the longest time working at the previous home health, I've noticed some co-workers would work couple of minutes past end of the shift. From my understanding, this was to prevent any field agents contacting whoever is on call until the next day. Now quick backstory. The person on call is the boss, aka owner, Don, admin, etc. One day, we had a conference meeting that the boss wasn't happy some of us were working past work hours and makes a statement to clock out exactly at the time we close for the day. Of course that meant she refuses paying us overtime if we're working over 8 hours. So since our work hours are from Monday to Friday 8 hours each day, we have to make the best of it being productive within those hours. Why emphasis about the days and hours, you ask? Question mark. Since the calls have been transferred to on-call, which is the boss. This also means Shush is responsible taking calls until office opens. You'd think Shed know the basic knowledge what to say or instruct when someone calls. Wrong. Shed basically call one of us late at night to assist her with any issue, and it usually takes 1 to 2 hours tops to finish assisting the issue. Here's the malicious compliance. One day, half of the co-workers were on vacation and were understaffed. We finished work for the day and transferred calls to the boss. At this time, I wasn't feeling so good and I wanted to rest for remainder of the evening. It wasn't even 8 p.m. and I received a call from my boss. Me. Hello. Mom. Boss. Oh good. I'm able to reach you on time. Me. Okay. What's wrong? Boss. I need you to call this patient and... Me. I'm sorry. I cannot do that at this time. I will follow up in the morning. Boss. No. This needs to be done now. Exclamation mark. Me. I understand. Mom. But I cannot work outside hours as you officially said. I will follow up on this patient in the morning. Boss. I did not pay you to be stuck up. Exclamation mark. Now help me or you won't work for me anymore. Me. But don't you remember what you told us? Because we cannot work overtime and it's past work hours, we cannot assist. This issue with the patient will be done soon as I come into the office tomorrow. Hangs up. The next day, I come into the office and the Alt Don arrives in time asking what happened last night. I explained to her the scenario and she took my side. We had a three-way call with the boss and the Alt Don gave her a long lecture how she told everyone we are not to be bothered after work hours even when she told us we cannot work overtime. The shivers I can hear from her side of the call belittle her. After that, we were allowed to work extra 15 minutes with extra pay past work hour to complete whatever needs to be done. She slowly stopped contacting us late at night, but would bug the Alt Don instead. And the issue she wanted me to assist that time with the patient. The patient couldn't find their pillbox and end up finding it later in the morning. So what the actual fudge? If you're enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 2. $1. 6K. Malicious Compliance. Posted by you, ancient_educator_76. 12 hours ago. You need to grade my test accurately. It's for a scholarship! Exclamation mark. Oh, is it? Now, let the pettiness ensue. Lock. Good morning, all. As much as I'd like to start this off by saying things like let me tell you a little bit about me. Or Sir Petty, I performed at the Super Bowl halftime show in 2008 and then go into a diatribe about just how petty I could be. This is far from the truth. Perhaps in some alternate petty verse where over a dozen college students were playing the part of, and absolutely nailing, whiny middle school students complaining about course requirements. Or if they happen to begin to repeatedly harass me by way of being on in-grade demo mode. Or spinning the wheel of you suck at teaching to come up with yet another complainsult wrapped in a thinly veiled question about me and how I run my course. Perhaps then I'd let nature take its course and let my pettiness bloom. Like a flower transplanted from an artificial habitat to a campus-bordering field. In the form of malicious compliance. And would NTU know it? Somehow. Some way. Petty finds a way. That being said, I really try to be a positive, supportive, caring, empathetic, far from sardonic college instructor. My clientele, as referenced above, are mostly college-age students who enrolling in what is basically a pre-algebra course my community college likes to call college math. I have the occasional young whiz kid who enrolls in my course to be super advanced. But for the most part, young adults in their 20s and 30s are who I teach. And solving systems of equations by substitution is currently what I teach them. I have many students who struggle and require additional tutoring. And I'm always happy to oblige. There is this one student who I wish would show up to our makeshift tutoring group but never does. Let's call her Mara. Mara acts like shushes the shit. She seriously acts like we're back in high school. Interrupt my demonstrations, miraculously. Because I literally direct instruct for 3 to 5 minutes before I popcorn around the room and treat it like a very large standard tutoring session. Mr. Op. My dad says this isn't the way to solve it. Mr. Op. Why don't you teach at ASU? Our partnering major university we transfer students to. What did you do wrong that you're teaching at this place? The list goes on and on. For brevity's sake, I'll make sure this story doesn't. We have an exam that about half the class got a 90 or better on. Followed by most of the rest getting B's, C's, etc. I know that this community college, despite its cheap cost, still has many students on full scholarship for one thing or another. Whether it be sports, personal hardships, activities, etc. That being said, if I notice a student tanked the test, I may just grade the thing on a curve to allow him to get the most points possible. This is what I chose to do for Mara. And she wound up with an 18/25 on her exam. I typed in the score, took a glance at her paper afterward and realized she actually missed yet another question. A major one. That would have brought her grade super low. I decided to look the other way. Part laziness. Part being nice. Let's not say how much each part's worth. But they ain't equal. So it's time to return the tests that I already had graded in the system when Mara starts up with her questions again. They are literally too tiresome to include. I will say her final piece. However, Mr. Op. I noticed that you gave me an 18/25 on my last test. Could I take a look at the test and see what I got wrong? I definitely didn't miss that much. I tried to use inflection to let her know that she should probably just be happy with the 18. By saying yeah I think you'd be happy with the 18 there kiddo. No. You can't just put whatever you want for my grade. 18 out of 25 is not even possible. Exclamation mark. I need to keep my GPA high because of all my scholarships. Exclamation mark. You need to grade my test accurately. Enter MaliciousCompliance. I knew good and well that she did not deserve, by any stretch of the imagination, anywhere near the 72% that 18/25 is. She didn't master 72% of the content. She didn't get 72% of the questions correct. I'll be honest and say that when I grade dozens of exams, I tend to look at the most important questions on each test and ensure these are 100% accurate. I always pepper in some spiraling thinky type questions. You know, stuff with rigor. But I don't grade against it. If I ever make an error in grading, it 150% of the time favors the student. I took her particular course's papers out of my blah tash case, file through the exams and find her particular one, and look at it. Quizzically. Then I look back at here while my head is still positioned toward the paper. I'm trying so hard to give her an out. She would nt budge. So I say, you know what? You're right. I did make an error. Oh. Crud. More than one. I then behind my desk where the students couldn't see what I was looking at, I graded her paper right then and there. By this time I had memorized the answers to the exam without even needing to pull out the key. But I did so I made sure she knew I was grading it thoroughly. You know. Accurately. She wound up with a 14/25. I handed it back to her right then and there, and let her know that I had changed the grade accordingly in her gradebook. That 14 she got. One of the solutions to the system she just managed to solve for y, but not for x, turned her high C to a solid D. She looked through the exam, scouring it, looking like the toy man from Toy Story, using an infinitely increasing series of overlapping lenses to look for one minuscule error on my part. I also made sure I took a picture of the test before handing it back, so she couldn't pull the C. I made it negative. It's right sort of thing. Shush has done that in the past. She quickly whipped out her phone to see how much this grade impacted her overall. She was livid without a direction to hurtle it toward. I could see that this act of petty MC on my part was a little too far. I actually feel bad for Mara. As she looked up at me, I could see her eyes well up a little bit. It was that too quiet right before something bad was about to happen. My spidey senses were tingling. Side note. This is why I hate Avengers Endgame. Spider-Man looked surprised at his death. He should have sensed it. Right. But I digress. Before she started to take her clenched arms, that she looked like she was trying to remove the top of the desk from its connected chair, and turn them on me. I offered a solution. Look, Mara. Remember you can do corrections on the exam for a fourth of the credit back. Right. That will get you almost all of the points that you were gifted in the first place. What do you say? She sheepishly agreed. Wound up with a 17. 5 out of 25. And has yet to give me a hard time since. But I'm pretty sure my semester survey will suffer greatly. TLDR. Adult student requested a grade change. I complied. 188 comments. Award. Share. Save. 281 people here. If you're enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 3. $646. Malicious Compliance. Posted by U. Divith, FYR. 10 hours ago. Just Desserts. MOC. For many years I worked at Pizza Hut. Or Schmeetzer Schmut. I don't know why people avoid the names. Anyhow, I have a million stories. And while many are malicious, only a few contain much compliance. At this time I was a dish dude, phone getter, whatever needed doing person. I was persistently amused by how quickly even the most trivial amount of power could go to people's heads. One waitress, who I will call Donna and then never use that name again in this whole story, was given some sort of title, like Grand Overlord of Waitstaff or something, which conferred upon her the power to do the same job as before but with more work. She wasn't actual management. Not that I would have cared much if she was. I showed up early every day, as was my habit. And one evening I was somewhere in the back wandering about. 20 minutes before my shift. The phones were ringing, and being ignored by just about everyone as usual. So the leading team lead of leading wait staff, who was the leader of the waitering people, ordered me to answer it. If she had asked, I would have done it, as I had 1,000 times before. But this was a decree from on high. I informed her that my shift didn't start for a while yet. But this detail failed to impress. I said I would have to clock in before I could use the order-taking computerizing thingy. And a manager would have to approve me doing that. They were oddly strict about that for a restaurant. These audacious challenges to the orders of the newly minted executive vice president of people who carry food to tables engendered some exasperation. She said she was a manager and just do it. I did not. So she swiped her card into the magic order screen and yelled politely to just fucking take the phone order. Under her card, her name, off the clock. Okay. Humbled by my public defeat, I meekly picked up the phone and proceeded to thank the caller for choosing etc. etc. and took the order. As I did so, I added 7 Bigfoot pizzas with extra whatever, a dozen bottles of beer, for delivery, and a couple of dessert pizzas. I told him their real total, before all the added nonsense, and the call ended. The thing is, we had stopped selling Bigfoot pizzas a few years before. We hadn't carried dessert pizzas since the mid-15th century, but they were still in the system. And we did not deliver beer as doing so might be illegal. The cooks were confused. The actual managers were confused. And questions were being asked. I assumed so. Anyhow, since I went outside for a smoke, the Royal Duchess of Waitressing came storming out the back door a bit later, and said a bunch of words or something. Then went back in. As I learned later, after clocking in, she had to get the help of an actual manager to delete all that stuff and change the total. Which messes up the numbers or something. I don't really know why, but they sure didn't like deleting things. And she had to tell them she had me use her swipey name thing to take the order because I was off the clock. And they really did not care for that at all. Right in front of the assistant manager. She threatened to write me up, which she did not have any authority to do. No customers were harmed in the making of this compliance, since they got the actual stuff they ordered. And there was no wastage since no one could make a Bigfoot or dessert pizza if they had wanted to. Just a bit of extra paperwork and a very annoyed wait queen. 51 comments. Award. Share. Save. 75 people here. If you're enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 4. $833. Malicious Compliance. Posted by You, Pizzaholic 1981. 14 hours ago. Every request needs a ticket. Understood. MOC. A few years ago I was an IT analyst for an aerospace company in Toronto. There were 3 sites, and 1 analyst for each site. I was barely able to keep up with the workload for my site but managed. One day I found out that 1 analyst had given a month notice and had already quit. The company did not replace him. I had to drive daily between cities to manage both sites. Shortly after, My boss was let go. And I was given a new boss who lived in another country. The work piled up, and several employees at a time would have non-working computers because there was nobody to help them. I had to stop supporting projects that I was involved in with other managers. Like getting 20 computers for the factory floor. This was definitely going to blow up. And I needed to cover myself. I had a talk with the GM and explained that I'd get walk-ups. Phone calls, texts and emails because most of the employees refused to use the ticket system. I'd even have employees coming up when I was on a call and try talking in my ear. The GM decided that all requests must come in the form of a ticket. I adopted a no ticket equals no work policy and enforced it on all employees and managers. I also stopped answering texts and calls. I'd answer all email requests with "please open a ticket." Most managers refused. So I would just thank them for their time while they fumed off to file a complaint against me. A week went by with no copier on the main floor because everyone refused to open a ticket to request more ink. Everyone had to walk downstairs to make their copies. A week went by with several lathes in the factory not working because everyone refused to open a ticket. Several computer illiterate, lazy employees would now have to ask their co-workers for help because they refused to open a ticket. And now they're behind on their work. Sometimes a new employee would spend 2 or 3 days in the office with no laptop and no user account, because the requests never came in the form of a ticket. Employees would go on business trips without laptops because they refused to open a ticket. This went on for several months and I was able to partially manage both sites. But it was exhausting arguing with everyone every day. I'd get threatened by management all the time, but nothing would ever come of it. I found out one day that the company wasn't planning on replacing the employee who quit. So I had enough. I spent a few weeks declining requests as usual. But when they came from a manager, I'd add, "and if you don't like it, then fire me." Request denied. Eventually I decided my mental health was more valuable than the company. And when the last analyst went on vacation, I simply left my phone and laptop on my desk and stopped coming in for my shifts. Zero notice given. A week later I get a call from HR. They found my wife's hash as an emergency contact. And said I let him down and there was nobody to help. I replied with "good. Now you know how it feels." And left it at that. 6 months later, the only analyst left tells me the company replaced my position with 2. But they're still in rough shape. All they had to do was replace an employee. TLDR, aerospace company doesn't replace IT staff when they quit. Workload doubles. I get permission to decline requests that don't come in the form of a help desk ticket. Everyone refuses tickets. I refuse work. No work gets done. 83 comments. Award. Share. Save. 61 people here. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on.